All right. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Monetizing Your Mental Capital. I'm your host, Will Christensen. This is sponsored by Seller Labs, one of the most amazing softwares for new Amazon sellers. Norm, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Norm, and I didn't prep you for this, so stand by.
Oh,
The question that I like to ask right as things open up is why would an Amazon seller who's interested in growing their Amazon business, upscaling their ability to monetize mental capital, understand this world of monetization, why would they be interested in hearing from Norm?
because I'm a fossil, pure and
Hmm.
simple. I think I've been through almost any scenario you could throw at me and still living. So I could tell you lots of stories.
So, any scenario, so Amazon seller, you've done that for a while.
Oh, I've done that since 2013, 14.
That
Yeah.
that is a fossil in this industry.
Hey,
Internet marketing since the mid 90s. You are a fossil.
I see, I told you.
So it sounds like you've had some opportunity to buy, sell, and be part of several businesses.
Oh, tons. I can't count them. I'm also a little bit of a startup junkie. So I've been involved with
Ooh,
lots of businesses.
I'm gonna have to identify with that. I definitely would call myself a startup junkie as well. I enjoy that beginning stage a little too much. That just creating something from nothing is pretty powerful.
And especially once you have something that's successful or people get to know you, all of a sudden you're going to get a lot more business plans. So it's really tough not to get carried away with too many shiny objects. You really do have to stay focused, but you want to have one eye on what's the next big thing.
Well, and if you, I think that's a huge nugget there, staying focused and connecting some of those different dots. All right, let's dive into some of these questions.
All right.
When was the first time you could remember monetizing your mental capital? Think way back to lemonade stand days. What's the first time you could remember creating a monetization
Ah,
strategy?
I've been doing this since I was a kid. I actually started working with my dad. He was a factory owner, so I got to work with him back in the day. But I'm probably gonna say I had my first corporation in high school, grade 11.
And what was that? What did you do in grade 11?
It was a
A rock promotion business. So like you
yeah,
were promoting rock in general or bands?
yeah, bands, and we try to go out and find bands. One of the fun stories that we had, it was four of us that created this, and it was called Relic. And we went out and we were looking at bands, and one of the guys that was in the company, his dad was fairly big shot, and he got to meet a lot of bands. He was in the grocery business, but he knew a lot of bands, and he had a roller rink. Actually, Guns N' Roses played at the roller rink, which was kind of funny. But we had an opportunity to take on LoverBoy during their first big album, and we turned it down. We didn't think it was going to do anything.
Do you regret this decision?
I
Just a tad. Wow. That is very interesting. So, was that because you were super into rock music and you liked that? What was it that led you to build a promotion business like that?
girls. It was high school, so no, we liked having a lot of fun. And the four guys I was involved with, actually, the one guy, Scott Humphrey, he went on to create the Chop Shop in LA, which is a famous sound recording studio. He went on to record a ton of people. And
Wow.
everybody that was in the group, the four of us, all became somewhat successful. And the reason why, we just like going out and having fun. And we thought, well, what better thing to do? Now, I have to admit, like back in Canada, back in those days, drinking age was 18. Maybe we were a little underage, but it was acceptable back then. And we just liked having fun. So we went to all sorts of the best concerts, backstage passes at oh man, there was so many of them. It was a lot of fun.
I love it. And those teenage boys, your main motivation was girls. I
I'm
get
not
that.
lying.
Hey, I started a social dance. My first time really getting out and starting new things. I started a swing dance club at Snow College because of girls.
I love
I
swing music.
it, so I went out and did swing dancing in high school, and I was like, this is kind of lame, guys. And then they did this swing out thing, and the girl swung back in, and they said, this is called the cuddle, and I said, I'm in. I like this swing dancing thing. And so then led on to starting multiple social dance clubs. And
Yeah.
there's one out there today, actually. It'll be 15 years next year. I started a social dance club in Salt Lake City, Utah, and still around.
Wow.
There's like 3,000 people in the Facebook group, and they meet every week. It's a free dance club. It's one of the things I can be like, I helped start that. Same
That's
logo
cool.
that I created 15 years ago.
Oh,
Pretty crazy stuff.
you know,
I don't.
no. Oh, he's a big seller. He also has a Wizard of Ecom. But anyways, he's got a lot of members, and he started a samba. I think it's a samba dance, huge samba dance studios, I guess across the states. But yeah, I
It's
know it
awesome.
might be something in our blood, you
Yeah,
know.
totally. Totally. So, where did you go? How did you get to where you are now from there?
Well, probably just a lot of different companies I was involved with kind of brought me up to that 2013 Amazing Selling Machine stand, like sitting in the audience and going, "Oh, I can do this." But I guess back in the day, my business was a grandfather clock business. Then the what was it called? The NAFTA came and wiped me out, so I didn't know
Mm,
what to do. So right across the street from me was a promotional company, and I went to work with them for a few weeks and said I thought I could do this on my own, and ended up getting involved with a promotional like incentive company.
mm,
Ended up doing a lot of catalog work, but my buddy and I decided to go at it together. And this is kind of interesting. So we did research, and this is why I want to bring it up because it is interesting. We did our research and we found out that the people that were in that game, there was two people, they usually made about $300,000 in sales, 23% gross margin.
mm.
And when we were doing this, we were saying, that sucks, interested. And so we've tried to figure out how can we grow fast and how can we be better than the others. And it all came down to perception, perceived vertical integration. So we decided,
Interesting.
let's go out and buy whatever we can. So we bought an embroidery facility, a big screening facility, a courier company, fulfillment company, and just expanded out. And by the time 6 months into it, I think we had about $2.5 million in sales. And about at that time, like gross wise, it was 45% gross margin. And we had this motto on time every time, exactly like you ordered it. And that's why Fortune 500 companies came to us. And the other thing that happened from this, it was opportunity. So I'm always looking for opportunity. One of the companies that I was at, Fortune 5 company in San Diego or San Jose, were having a really bad day. I was at purchasing and they all were just pissed at something. So I went to lunch with the purchasing manager, a VP from Calgary, went out to
Hmm.
lunch and I said, what is going on? He goes, all our non-contracted suppliers are getting paid around 240 to 280 days out. And they're thinking that because they're dealing with, a company that they're going to get 30 days to 90 days. And by the end of that lunch, I had a solution and I said, I will solve your problem. I'm on a 30-day contract as a contracted supplier. Let me take over all of your non-contracted purchases all over the world, everywhere in the world. And you pay me in 30 days. I pay them in 90 days. So I take advantage of, and you pay me 5% on top of that. By the end of that meeting, we had an arrangement. I was the global representative for the purchasing department of a Fortune 500 company, and we could run it with one person. It was crazy. And they ended up actually this ended up getting me into ecom because when that Fortune 500 company wanted to go and have a website back in 95, 96 that
Hmm.
would do a cross promotion or co-op with their dealers, they asked me
Yeah.
if I could do a website. I didn't even know what the internet was really, But I do know that I was paying one of their suppliers for technology. So I asked them, they were in India, and they put together a website for us. And it was like one of the first graphical sites that were out there. And so 95 to 97, I think, was my first website. And then other Fortune 5 saw that and said, wow, who is this guy or who is this company? And they came to us. And then we were doing, I think, our first of our own was a print on demand company. So for logos, and this was all outsourced to India.
Mm,
And if they wanted any type of a letterhead or their logo design or anything corporate identity wise, we would just get it done. We cut a deal with one of the printers in Minnesota, and this was kind of cool because the deal was with the Indian huge dyeing company that we would pay $60. So they got their money, $60. They had to turn around a logo in 24 hours.
okay.
So we could go back and revise it within 48 hours. And we normally did. Now, if there was any revisions later on, they were on it. It was the same price. But how we priced it out was if you wanted it in 72 hours, it was $3,000. This is crazy back in the day. If you wanted it, I forget how we did this, but 2 or 3 days later, it was $1,500, and that was about the average, $1,500.
Wow.
But it went down. If you wanted to wait 2 weeks, it went down to $395. Well, if you're starting a business, nobody wants to wait. So they didn't want the top package. So we priced it where, okay, we're going to be right in the middle. Here's Goldilocks. And people were just buying it left and right at $1,500. And it cost us 60.
That was a small, yeah, not a that was a healthy margin.
It was a slightly healthy margin, yeah. And nice if you're one of the only people out in the market doing it too, because this new thing called the World Wide Web was all of a sudden, and people were experimenting with it a little bit. The Fortune Fives or the larger companies, they were a bit more secure with paying you,
Right.
weren't doing any transactions over the internet.
Yeah.
Um,
It was
and
all like wire or
yeah,
checks in the
yeah,
mail kind of
yeah,
thing.
good thing. Yeah. Actually, now it's funny because my buddy, and you had him on your podcast, Kevin King, he has a
Hmm.
calendar company. And I was here just like I walked in the door and he had a bunch of checks in the mail. I'm going, who gets checks? He goes, old guys that buy my calendars. And I'm sitting there going, all right, if there works for you.
Old guys who buy my calendars. It is really interesting. I had this small boutique. I clone entrepreneurs is thing that I do outside of Seller Labs. I find young, super hungry entrepreneurial students or young entrepreneurs, and I pair them with overwhelmed entrepreneurs. And in
Okay.
that process, we do this like challenge for testing for risk. Like, are you willing to take risks? And we challenge them to take a personality test, but we tell them we're not going to reimburse them right now is the way we phrase it. And so they have to like buckle up and decide, like, I'm actually going to take this test. Well, had one the other day who said, yeah, I don't have. So they actually took the test. And when they take the test, we don't tell them we're going to reimburse them. If they take the test, we say, congratulations, you've passed the risk part of our test. We'll now reimburse you. Send us a Venmo or a PayPal, and we'll reimburse you. And if they come out and say, oh, I can't afford it, that's another way you can pass the test, right? Is you can kind of connect those dots. Well, this guy said, I don't have a Venmo or a PayPal, off another one of these random cash app kind of things. Can you send it to me that way? And I was like, we don't even have that. And then I thought, does my bank actually make checks? Like, like I'm
Yeah.
in business for 2.5 years with this staffing business and or 3 years in this staffing business. And I don't know if they make checks at this bank.
Yeah. It's different from when I started.
Yes.
Telex machines, the old telex machine that was in one.
What is a telex machine? Is a
It
telex
was a
machine?
tape that ran. So if something over the wire, it would just punch holes into a paper and you get your message that way.
So it would punch holes into the paper, as in like the message was like that, like it was like.
Trying to read it was in the 80s. I remember the telex machine, and I'm not sure if if it was
Like, could you
a
read
message
based
that
on the
came
punched holes?
across and it was punched, yeah, punching holes. I'm not sure. But the other
Wow.
thing, I don't know if you probably wouldn't remember this, but ditto. Like I used to like sitting in school, we were getting copy. So they go, the teacher down to the ditto machine and they'd like just it was cranking wheel. And I guess it's some form of alcohol, and there'd be this purple print. Okay, so it was purple, but like every kid would just be because it smelled so good.
That's
Uh,
so funny. No, they did not. They that must have been like that's what they were doing before Xerox, right? Before they had a
yeah,
copy
that's
machine.
right. That's right.
It is fascinating to see like how technology just things down to more efficiency, and sometimes you lose some of that nostalgia. I do miss some of those things that like kids, and I've got a 7 and a 10-year old, and I'm often like, man, you are not going to know, what it was to memorize phone numbers. That was something I had to do a lot of
Oh
as
yeah.
a kid. Or you're not going to know. There's just lots of things that I'm like, there's some character that I feel like might be missing here in just remembering how bored you were in the car.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, we my sister, my brother, but I mean, we were all screamed at. And just think of this. So my dad usually had a Marquis or a Grand Marquis. So they were bigger Ford products.
Mm-mm.
And my sister, my brother, whoever got it first, used to lie up on the little ledge
Oh
where when you were
wow.
driving. And, there were seat
Back?
belts. Yeah, my wife's family had a station wagon. So you never sat down. It was, you fold down. My mother, her father was a mechanic and a limo driver as well. But they were driving around in rumble seats. And then, you remember what a rumble seat was?
Yeah.
So they got, and yeah, there's so many cool things that you used to be able to do. But
Yeah.
even just GPS, I remember going out and having like rallies. We'd go and, so, a bunch of we go to these rallies, and you have to try to figure it out with hints and then maps and trying to F16 G, and you're trying to match everything up. And if you had to find something new, it was impossible
Yeah.
sometimes. If you
Google
didn't
it.
have, yeah, yeah, I was,
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, information is your fingertips in a whole new way. All right. Diving into our next question here.
all right.
Imagine you're in a coffee shop with a friend, and this friend's told you, "Hey, I just got started on Amazon, doing $1 a month. Which of the following areas do you think you could advise me in? Product launch, product reviews, or advertising? Which of those four would you say you are like, oh yeah, I know about this?
What were they again? Product
Product
launch,
launch, reviews, listings, or advertising?
100% listings.
Listings. All
Yeah.
right.
Like launch pretty close after, but listings still see a lot of people just doing it wrong.
Okay.
Just
I like
doing it
it.
wrong.
So,
Yeah.
so we're here for a second that I am your friend in this Amazon. That this just gotten started, kind of looking at my stuff, and I'm just asking you some questions here. So, what product launch strategies are still working on Amazon? Like I'm seeing a lot of old
Is
blog
this a
posts.
listing question or a product launch question?
Oh, good question. We're gonna go listings first, then product launch. So
Okay.
let's go listings. What are the most common mistakes that you see new sellers like blatantly making in product listings?
First is in search results, they don't differentiate. So that's a pattern interrupt is probably the easiest thing you can do on a search, especially if you're not in the first 3 to 6 positions. So you want to jump out, and then you have to do competitive research. You got to make sure that, maybe like if you want to follow along, just go to knives. And you can go under Damascus knife, chef knife, sushi knife, and you'll see that most of them are black boxes, and they always have the tip going up from the bottom left to the right. And they're all the same. Now, some, like Delstrung, has changed that, but there's a couple out there that stand out. And everything was black box or black with a hint of gray and standing up tower position. And they just all look the same. Well, A couple of companies out there started to see this, and the pattern interrupt was, and I use this when I talk to people about this, is that there's one that has a yellow box, yellow and black. Second you see it, it stands out. And when I ask the audience, usually 90% will, if their hands are up, will say that's the one that they picked. The other one is, again, most of them are tip. The tip is in the left, going to the right, and all I did would swing it around. And that's the second one. So not having the, like, even if you have the biggest name, the most reviews, the best description, you'll get and then the thing is it goes right into the images. Like most people, there are a lot of niches, they suck. They try to get away with a fiver or a $50. They'll argue the fact that they have to pay $50 and they pay for it. Like when you put in the slide deck, they
I
put
paid
in
50
way
bucks
too.
for that.
I'm talking about the whole slide deck.
Oh,
No, no, $50. Even at that, it's, they would, it was one image, but okay, is this your shot? Should we do a rendering? Maybe a rendering. Like I was working with a pillow company, they have wrinkles. Well, if you want to have wrinkles, and that's going to be the first thing that's going to show poor quality, your perception is everything. As soon as you see that listing, it's going
the
to be your
wrinkles. Oh yeah,
perception.
you're gonna have my pillow. I got it.
Yep. And if it's a higher priced item, you'll never get it, or you'll have very low traffic. So, do you do a 3D rendering? So anything that could wrinkle or anything that's a cylinder, for supplements, you want to have that beam of light coming down. You're
Mm,
labeling when you're like a product. A lot of let's just stick to supplements for a second. They'll have that wraparound where you're going to see the supplement facts and then you're going to see the directions and all that other stuff, which takes up a lot of space. So if you go and you do a 3D rendering there, or you just have a graphic artist do it, but 3D rendering would be better, is you take the most important pieces of information, only the most important. If you can blow up the logo, if it's the scent or the flavor or whatever it could last. Yeah, but whatever this is, make sure it's highlighted so people can read it. That's probably one of the biggest things with supplements or anything that's more of a cylinder, is that there's too much information on the packaging and that they don't get rid of a lot of the junk space. So then you go
interesting.
down and you get images that people want to write books. The book's on the other side where the bullet points are. All you want to do is, and I'll give an example. So shampoo, or, maybe it's a skin toner, but 3 steps, lather in, pour into hand,
Mm,
lather and
mm.
enjoy. And if they want more information, look to the right,
Bullet
if
points.
you want instructions there. The other thing, it's nothing new, but you really want to go and check out benefits before features. I usually try to make the image carry itself, and I try to put 6 images, and then I fill the rest with videos. And trick to the video
Mm,
is that I utilize the video spots. So okay, so I'll
mm-hmm.
get done, but when I get my video done, I'll usually pay whoever's doing it for 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, and it's well scripted. So it'll be product, might be another version of product. It could be usage, it could be ingredients, open box. So all of these get done. And then when I use the three up top, then I'll go down to the related video and I'll fill my carousel as much as I can. And I'll put a thumbnail there so it looks like it's an educational series for my brand. And that
Oh,
way
cool.
you get the rather than your competitors. So,
Right.
and you can have comparison videos there. That's not against terms of service. I mean,
Right.
I wouldn't go after anybody, but I would compare the handles or the sewing or the quality of packaging.
Yeah.
So that's a one on that side. When it comes down to imagery and just quality, would be perception. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but this is something that I've noticed years ago,
Mm,
is that Amazon, there's 3 tiers of pricing.
yeah.
There's the product cannibalization level, which is tier 1, or tier 3. That's the lowest level. And that's where the Chinese are dumping and they're just, it's volume or it's a new seller. A lot of new sellers. How do I compete? I'll just throw it there and I'll go for the lowest price. Wrong move. But if you want to sell for volume, go there. Usually there's and I'll give you an example, Dead Sea Mud. You can get it for $7 to $15. And all you're
Dead
doing is
Sea
moving
mud.
product.
I didn't even know you
That,
could buy Dead Sea mud.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was one of the first products I was working on. And that can go an 8 ounce to 16 ounce can go from last time I looked was 668 to 1440 something. So let's say $15. Then there's a couple of additional offshoot prices. And then when you're going to notice it goes from 24 to 44 the last time I checked. And those are your average seller that have pretty good images. You know, they think, and they're looking at it and they're hoping that this is where the sweet spot is. They may not have checked out the price. So they kind of fall in. Then you've got, and there's a whole bunch of like individual prices it goes as high as $75 for 3.5 ounces over to a $95 small container of Dead Sea mud. Now, I don't know about you, but Dead Sea mud is from the Dead Sea and it's mud. Yeah, it's like the only thing that's making a difference there is branding and perceived value. So I got a great example on launch what to do, but we can talk about that later. But just remember the Dead Sea mud. So you have to figure out, do I want to come down here, move volume? Do I want to go and compete with everybody and his mother? Or do I want to spend a couple extra dollars on packaging, on photography? Packaging makes everything, the container it comes in, the unveiling of the product when you get it. Do you have a box? And do you like almost like an unbox? Oh, the 10-second, oh, it's coming up. And maybe you have some sort of scent in it. So now you're using your senses, you're using your, not taste, but you're using your fingers, you're using the scent, the smell, you're put open and there's
Interesting.
Dead Sea mud. Now you got to open it up, either a wax seal or, you open and there it is. Now it's probably in some sort of cylinder. So now you have to extract it and then you open it up and there's the seal. You always want to have the seal across. And there you go. That's your $75 Dead Sea mud. And it probably cost you $2 in packaging.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a product listing. So if I were to use a rule of thumb for how to choose what to put in my product listing, how to choose like the way to go out looking at that, what would you say should be my rule of thumb in terms of like what questions should I ask myself to make sure that I put the right info in there? Like
Oh,
what am I to keep in my mind as I'm making all the edits to my listing?
I think the most important thing is when you're doing your product research, you check it out. You see, first of all, if the niche you're going into is oversaturated, or if it is saturated, it doesn't mean that you can't go launch at the highest or at the lowest. It depends what you want to do, or right in the middle. So you got to see where those markets are. Or you go to a subcategory. And if you want, I can give you an example of a really great subcategory that just didn't know existed.
I love it.
But
What's your subcategory?
so Tim Jordan and I had a mentoring group back a few years ago, and the call was, how do you find products? So we didn't know what we were going to find, but it got to be a tortilla press. Okay. So these metal presses, you can look it up on Amazon. They were saturated. Everything was metal tortilla press, metal, and they were 29 to 39 bucks. We just happened to go to Alibaba in the group. No, we happened to go to Pinterest and Etsy. That's always a great way to get your subcategory. So we went into helium 10, I think. We searched, we got some information. We saw one of the search terms was wooden. We went, oh, let's go to Alibaba. And all of a sudden, wooden came up. There was a couple of suppliers. And then Tim had a great idea. He goes, why would I buy this in China when why don't we make it authentic? We'll go to Guatemala. And we found these wooden tortilla presses same day in Guatemala that were roughly the same as getting them landed in from China. And they sold for 99 bucks. And they were cheaper. They were metal presses.
Hey, wait, so tell
Now,
me, you said go look on Etsy to find
yeah,
the subcategories?
we went on Pinterest and Etsy. That's where I usually go. I always like my perceived value. I try to go there and I take a look at what the handcraft, the artisans are doing. And then I kind of knock it off packaging. Like I might see really cool idea for, a knife. That's a whole other story. But yeah, that's where you get for Dead Sea mud, like skin toners, shampoos, soaps.
So ideas for packaging, ideas for images, ideas for like how to create some perceived value right
Oh
there.
yeah. Hmm.
Love that.
Perception is everything.
Perception is everything. Okay, we're skipping product. We're gonna have to come on another time to talk about product lunch. We're
All
going over
right.
to this one
Okay.
here. So if you could make a phone call back to yourself in your early career, so let's imagine that you could call this younger version of yourself that was doing the rock band promotion,
Without the
and we're,
beard. Without the beard.
without did he didn't have a beard then yet, did he?
No, no.
No, no beard. You're calling beardless Norm, and when you call beardless Norm at this young age, we're going to assume that he is mature enough to receive whatever advice you give him. So if I handed you a cell phone and said, "Hey, I've actually got you on the phone, but it's like back when you were doing that, rock band," what would you tell him?
There's two things, and don't even have to think about it. Number one, you have to be resilient. If you're not resilient and you're in the Amazon game, or if you're an entrepreneur, you're not resilient, get out early because it's just going to be a whole lot of pain. So you got to be kicked between the legs, go down, get up, expect to be kicked about 20 or 30 more times. And if you can still stand up, that's good. The next thing is this is I learned, somebody told me this a long time ago when I was involved with a hyper growth company and it went the wrong way.
Hmm.
So I was stressed right out. How do I make payroll? I literally got an ulcer over it, a
Hmm.
bleeding ulcer over it.
Hmm.
And I was in my 20s when this happened.
Hmm.
And then the next time, like things go, if you're an entrepreneur, things are going to go really good. They're going to go awesome. And then they're going to turn and it's going to be really bad. And then, oh, you're going to do really well with another company. If any entrepreneur tells you they never have a bad deal or they never fail, they are lying. So this is what the guy told me. I was truly depressed and just horrible, like didn't want to get up. And he was telling me, you know what? Don't worry. You're worrying too much. He says, things will never, the worst of the worst, that's what your brain tells you. Never think that way. It will never be as bad as you think about it. Never. And
Hmm.
just like I started thinking back over like the my life, 100% true. Something always and saves the day,
It
move
will not
on.
be as bad as
Yeah,
you're thinking it will.
yeah. It never is. And you know what's weird? Like networking, I like going out and meeting people, but there's always that new door that opens up. You don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know who you're going to be with. But I know for a fact, again, Kevin and I have a business together. We travel around and you don't
Yeah.
know who you're sitting beside.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'll give you another example. We went to dinner. This guy was supposed to join us. He couldn't join us. And he said, "Oh, can my friend come?" Who no, nobody knew who he was. He came and he was just sitting at the end of the table and he was being really quiet. And so I just went over and I introduced myself. Turns out that he was the CTO and co-founder of Flipkart.
Like, oh, well,
Yeah,
hello.
ended up a really good connection.
Yeah. 100%. Okay, question here.
Okay.
Tricks, hacks, or books you've come across in the last year that have helped you upscale your mental capital. Tips, tricks, hacks, or books, or that have helped you in business in general. Tips, tricks,
Okay.
hacks, or
Well,
books.
the tip is what I just told you. It's so important. Always be continually learning. So I've always got 4 courses on the go. And you have to keep your eyes open for opportunity. but it's got to be a solid piece of opportunity. Not don't off of your business. I can give another tip, and that's
Mm.
a lot of us want to sell. So a lot of us go out there and we think, okay, I'm going to sell. Gives you a letter of intent, and you think, oh, yay, they do the dance. I'm going to retire. That doesn't always go through. And what'll end up happening is you'll spend the next 6 months not focused on your business. Your business will tank, and the guy might pull out or the person might pull out.
Yep.
So that sucks big time.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch. A letter of intent is simply an intent.
Yeah, it's not binding. Yeah, so that's want to be careful of. The other thing is for Amazon sellers, business people in general, don't go trying to screw people over. Like this whole
Mm.
black thing, and you might get that and you might suffer from it. But if you're going to go and try to do that so you can get an extra, dollar, thought it before you do it. And remember, when you go to these conferences, you're going to attract those types of people. So positive attract the positive, negative, and then the in between, they all go together. You start to become that person, well, guess which category you're going to go to. And you're going to be, people sense it.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Norm, thank you so much for being on the show. I think there's been lots of really good nuggets here for you to share with the listeners, and I appreciate your time.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me.
All right, over and out. Monetizing your mental capital. See you on the next episode. Norm had one more note that he wanted to add after we clipped there. So see how the editors have flipped this in here. But Norm, tell us what you wanted to share with the audience.
All right. Well, the best way to get a hold of me or get a bit more of this beard is you can listen to my podcast, and that's Lunch with Norm, and that's every Wednesday. Or a new podcast that I co host with Kevin King. It's called The Marketing Misfits, and it's about people who think outside of the box to succeed. It's a really cool podcast. And then I have a newsletter. It's really simple, it's very unique. I take personal stories and I twist them into business lessons. And that's LWN, Lunch with Norm, LWN.news.
LWN.news. Love it. Well, Norm, it was a pleasure to have you on the show today.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.